Hey there, hockey fans. Welcome to 97 Octane Hockey, featuring our dynamic trio of hosts, Kirk Morris, Bob Schmidt, and Mike Dursa. The boys are cranking up the heat on Oilers talk, bringing you the hot takes from power plays to hat tricks, with special guests and insider insights. It's hockey talk that takes the game to a whole new level. Get ready for a wild ride through the highs and lows of Oilers hockey. Buckle up, Oilers faithful. This is 97 Octane Hockey.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 41. Tonight we're joined by Michael Hebert from Oilers Live and Ryan Lotsberg, senior writer for the Heavy Hockey Network. And we're going to break down today's 6-3 Matinee Monsters in the Edmonton Oilers. Wasn't looking good heading into the third, but they kind of erased a 1-goal deficit and scored 4 goals unanswered. Welcome, Lotsie. Welcome, Michael. Welcome, Mr. Bob and Mr. Morris. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mike.
Good evening. It's like that. This is like a heavy hockey Hall of Fame right here.
Really, because just before we went on air, you called it a wall of shame. So that's
well, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, she wasn't a pretty one today. For starters, that's for sure. I thought the initial start of the first didn't look too bad, but then things kind of, went a little sideways. And that, and again, for the second straight game, or that second period was like, yeah, that's the other team's period at this point. I don't know what's going on for our boys in that second period, but in all honesty, though, if we keep coming out the third period like we've been doing, then for sure, let's just have a shitty second period. Then, if that seems to be our game plan, that's working. I mean, it doesn't, not really a recipe for success, but my goodness, these last 2 third periods have been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's not how you start; it's how you finish, right?
I guess so.
You go back to that game where the Oilers were tied 1-1 going into the third, right? A couple of games ago, and you just like that's got to be the way that a team plays. You're not going to play 3 great periods of hockey every night, right? Like it's your worst period has to be outplayed by your best 2, right? And that's what the Oilers did tonight. I thought they were the better team in the first. They got trampled in the second, but they stayed in the game and did the trampling in the third. I think it's that's a recipe for success. That's how you win hockey games, and just 2 out of 3 you need, and you need to be better than your worst period. That's it. So I think the Oilers did great tonight.
I watched a bit of the Bruins today and kind of did a scouting report for Chris Knobloch because he needs it from me. They seem to sit back in a bit of a trap there and wait for you to make a mistake before they try to pounce on it. I think against Dallas today went into a shootout in the 9th round before they, I think, pulled off a win. But that's next up, and we're going to have to bring our A game. I mean, Dallas is a pretty good team. We found a way to beat Dallas the other day, but it's going to be another hard-fought game coming up.
Well, surprisingly enough, I watched a couple of Bruins games there, bits and pieces of Bruins games there the last little while, and it's shockingly enough, it's the goaltending, and just team structure as a whole. Like it's kind of like mirror image of the Oilers there at times here right now as well. After their 16 game heater, it's just like they've allowed themselves to dissolve in certain plays and just hung out the goalies to dry. But a lot of them, a lot of the goals against, they're like just uncharacteristic for them, I noticed. But well, hopefully for us, that trend kind of continues. Or the Bruins have been floundering here and there, which has been uncharacteristic here for the last year and plus, right? Just really unorthodox and really, yeah, like I said, just uncharacteristic, not playing Jim Montgomery hockey.
You want to add to that, Bobby?
Well, I watched that game as well today, and these are two of the top 10 teams in the league, I think. And yeah, you're right, Kurt. I did find they were sitting back a little bit. The only time I really saw them really push forward was actually in that third to tie it up, and then Dallas actually took over the overtime. So Boston's kind of lucky it went to a shootout. Same as you can't really play a 60-minute game, all 60 minutes stellar. You can't play an 82 game season, all 82 games stellar. And I think the Bruins are kind of in that funk right now where they're playing seesaw hockey. I still think they're a very formidable foe. And for me, this is still, my preseason prediction was an Oilers-Bruins Stanley Cup final, and I think that's still a possibility. I think there's less pressure on the Bruins this year. There's less eyes on them. So, losing Krejci and Bergeron was huge, but the influence they left behind, Bergeron's leadership presence is still there through Marchand, because those two were best buds. Marchand learned all his leadership through Bergeron. So that kind of leadership is still, similar. Guys have taken steps up in their game overall, like Coyle, DeBrusk, these guys that got some young, McAvoy. They got some, their goaltending tandem, I think, as a rule, is still the best tandem in the league. But they're doing the same thing as the Bruins are right now. They're kind of playing a bit seesaw. Swayman came up with some huge saves today as well, but then he had a couple of goals that were kind of like, he probably wants that one back. I'm excited for this next game because, like I said, for me, it's my Stanley Cup preview.
I mean, what'd they look like tonight? I mean, they, I know they've coming off a stretch where they're not doing really well. But look at the Oilers had a stretch where they didn't do very well either, right? I mean, you're going to have little bits and stretches. It's kind of, to my in-game analogy, you can take that same thing to a season. 2/3 of the season, you got to be better than the other third, right? and I mean, for the Bruins, you could have, either 4-4-2 in their last 10. I mean, if you had, a little stretch where you're not that great. I think maybe, coming from when you look at their season from last year, it's just unbelievable to think 4-4-2 is even possible for this team. But, there were points in the Oilers season where 4-4-2 would have been considered an upgrade, right? Yeah, not now, thankfully, but that's that's the nature. I mean, I watched them in Vegas when I was there. They they looked solid. They lost that game in overtime, but they looked solid. They didn't look like the same team from last year, but they're just such a good team. And you're right, like Swayman's Swayman. Like he's he's pretty awesome in net. There's no doubt there. It'd be nice to have that kind of goaltending to back you up. And you got gamers like Marchand is a real gamer. Pasternak, like this is a team that, is full of guys that could easily be considered sort of Hall of Fame candidates down the road, right? Like they're just such a solidly put together team. I don't know what I didn't watch the game tonight, so I guess, they look like old Bruins or new Bruins.
Well, I think everybody's kind of waiting and seeing to see them fall apart again, just like what happened to them in the playoffs there last year. But their depth, man, like even their prospect pool for what they have done to acquire people, it's still strong. Like they brought up a kid there, Brazeau. They actually signed him to AHL contract there, I think yesterday. Yeah. And he got his first NHL goal here today. So, Yeah, and in the reviews were like, the kid looks strong. He brought the play up overall for the team, and that'd probably be one person I would look for there in that the game there on Wednesday for sure.
Lotsy, I'll get you to control your mic when you want to talk on and off, because I guess it is looping back through you. I've muted you right now, but when you're wanting to talk, just hit maybe mute your mic now, and then when you want to go, just unmute yourself so you can talk. I don't know why it's doing that, but that's definitely going on.
I say my best stuff on mute, Lotsy. So
oh man. So I got to ask you guys, did you have a converted touchdown and a field goal being given up by the Vancouver Canucks today on your bingo cards? You can go with that, Kirk, and then Bob, and then Ryan, then Mike.
Well, I left my house and I went down to my dad's cabin here this afternoon, and he was like, I don't know, it was about 10 minutes into the Oilers game. He's like, yeah, you want to check the scores there on Vancouver? And I looked at my phone, it's like 8-5. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it's 8-5 for the Wild. It's because that was I actually watched the second period of that game, and it was wacky, man. Just the amount of penalties, like both teams. I would say both teams were playing, but just if you're a Vancouver guy and you brushed against one of the Wild players, it was a penalty. Like it was crazy, man. And then the breakdown there in the third, from what I saw there in the highlights, I was just like, holy smokes. Like I bet you it was peeling the paint off game there somewhere. It could have been in the dressing room, or it could have been in his office. Who knows? Because that was one that got away from them pretty quickly.
I don't have much. I haven't seen any highlights after that game. I've only seen the score, and it's blown me away. I think if anything, though, it's exciting because the Canucks are a powerhouse, but it's again shows you the the diversity of our game kind of thing. Where Minnesota, who's sitting near the basement, any team can beat any team on any given night, and to put up 10 goals. Who was starting for Vancouver? Was it Demko?
Smith.
It was DeSmith.
Was it Smith?
Yep.
Yeah. But just overall though, that's a head turner.
I know a team that can get rid of a 1B. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know if they can afford it, but it's sitting on our farm team right now.
Lotsy, did you see it? This is the most quiet I've ever heard you. So.
No, I didn't. I saw. I'm like Bob. I saw the score. I didn't see any of that game today, but sure, it's funny. It's hilarious, but like the Canucks are still going to be a good team. They still are a good team.
Yep.
Like what Rick Tocchet has done with that roster has been unbelievable. Like even a couple of years, like even the Canadian division, I had the Canucks as a playoff team, but it didn't come out that way. It's like I feel this is a team that's been bubbling with some potential for a long time now. They just needed a couple pieces and some new coaching, I guess. That was pretty much it. But I mean, that 10-7 game, it's an anomaly. It's a fun thing to talk about. It's funny that it happened, but the Canucks are still a strong team.
Well, it's funny that it happened, and it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, look at Tampa though. They got absolutely bombed by Florida. I mean, it happens to teams. What you got to be a little bit concerned about though is if you're the Canucks, is that DeSmith's numbers aren't great. Like this game throws him below 900, but his last was looking at it like his last few games. I mean, he's been below 900 each game, right? Like so if you're the Canucks, I mean, you got yourself a backup problem right now. And also, how much does that speak to when the Oilers were on a roll, their backup won 5 straight, right? So clearly like a team that has got everything together defensively can lift up a backup to be beyond 900 at the very least. You know, I'm like, it makes me question, and I haven't seen enough Vancouver games, but how much of the Canucks season is based on what's been the extremely stellar performance of Thatcher Demko, who's been absolutely outstanding in the games that I have watched. He
Yep.
looks outstanding, and we've talked about this, like, uh, you know, ad nauseum, like about our goalies, right? Like, you know, if your goalie looks outstanding, some of that might have to do with the fact that your defense is not that outstanding, right? Because, you know, Skinner's numbers grew when he looked like he was just, you know, getting out there and playing games because the defense was doing all the right things, and then Skinner could, you know, benefit from that. Um, it makes me question how much of the Canucks record is Thatcher Demko. I mean, look, that's not the worst problem to have, right? Like, I mean, I've been
No,
speaking about that
no.
for the Oilers for a long time, is that we have a goalie who we can blame for a couple of wins, right? But
Well, I will say this, that yeah, you're right, Mike, about the Smith right now. His last 3 games have been under 800, but before then, he's actually had a good season. Like, he has good numbers, he has good analytics, and he's had some wins against some strong teams too. Like, well, one of the games was against Edmonton. He beat I guess his overtime loss against the Rangers, where he faced over 25 shots. But like, his overall dynamics is there. This might be a more reflection of just him having a bit of a mini slump. But I do think it is the same situation as we have in Edmonton, because Demko is one of the premier goalies in the league. I think Skinner right now is definitely a top 15 with a potential top 10 goalie in the league. And both our backups are career backup goalies who've never really had a long-standing stint as a number one, up in the majors. So are we both comfortable if our starters go down?
That is the crazy part. Like, depth in your goaltending. You almost need a good number 3 just in case to fall back on. And that's what's kind of saddening about our situation, because Calvin Pickard could step in as number 3 like pronto, and he'll play his behind off there like he has here in the past while. But is it the age old question here for us Edmonton Oiler fans is Ken Holland going to move Jack Campbell, or if he's going to get a 1B? Like, I don't know. I just, that Bakersfield's kind of fallen off the map here the last couple of games, like just bad play overall. No. Yeah.
Somebody in elementary school has an answer.
Yeah. Go ahead there, Lotsy. Go ahead and
turn my
chime
mic
in.
on, raise my hand. Sorry to interrupt you, Kirk. But I don't know if you caught the 32 Thoughts podcast dropped earlier today, but Friedman was basically saying that Holland is not looking at goaltending. As much as I was talking about the importance of moving Campbell this season to remove some of his cap space, not just to be able to add at the deadline, but to reduce some of the impact of Connor Brown's potential or performance bonus for next year, right? But I don't see it happening. So I think we're going to be dollar in, dollar out at the deadline. And I don't think that goaltending is the priority, because, I mean, yeah, if Skinner goes down, we're going to be in a world of hurt. But I think you could say that about any team and their starting goaltender. But there's no salary cap in the playoffs.
True.
Right? So it's not as if we're going in with Skinner and Pickard alone. It's Campbell is still very much in the picture for the playoffs.
And I think that's where he's shown the best, like so far for us. Like last year, look what he did. Like, Casey, mighty Casey steps up the bat and smacks a home run there against the Kings. Could he do it again? Is the question. And I think he's kind of rebuilt that confidence there for the most part. There, at least from what I've read from Kurlock and whatnot. But
yeah. Yeah, he's been quite good for a while now.
Yeah.
But I mean, the obvious thing that we can always go back to is what Vegas did last year, right? But Logan Thompson was hurt.
Yep.
We had Laurent Brossoit go down mid-playoffs. You had Jonathan Quick on the bench, but not playing. And then Aiden Hill came in and won him a Stanley Cup. So I'm not saying that's the expectation. That's not going to be the way it goes for every team every season. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like, there's not 30 Andre Vasilevskis in the league. And Tampa doesn't win the cup every year, right? So like, as much as it's a luxury to have that extreme top end number one goaltender, the workhorse, the guy you look at and say, yep, I trust you to win any possible game. Not every team has that, and teams can win without it.
And there's some teams that have that and don't go anywhere with it. Look at the Jets. Connor
Hellebuyck's never won a cup.
Yeah. Hellebuyck's been a top 3 goalie now for 5 years or so, and that whole organization, like even the original, the original Winnipeg Jets. I guess they're the Arizona Coyotes now, but like they've just had no. The Jets name has had no success attached to it for the most part.
Well,
and just hopping on you there, Bob, there for a second. Sorry, Mike, for cutting you off. But speaking of the Jets, speaking of the Devil, like you look at that performance there versus the Canucks, and they literally were like, they just peppered them and basically hung Demko Thatcher Demko to dry in that third period. Like they just 2 quick blows, bang bang, and then they locked them down like defensively. It would be an awesome matchup to see Vancouver and Winnipeg, face off in the playoffs, if it's going to happen or not. But boy, oh boy, that was something else just to watch Winnipeg pepper the crap out of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there's a couple things that I always think about. One is, goaltending definitely wins championships in this league. But, I remember a few years back, the year before we got Mike Smith, he was easily the best goaltender in the first round, but the Flames lost out in 4 straight. Like, he was absolutely outstanding. And the Flames couldn't back him up enough to even get one game, right? And so, goaltending being what it is, it's great, but you still have to have a whole other team around it. Are we discounting though what Pickard's done for the Oilers? Like, I think he's been solid. I mean, I wouldn't even he's been a solid 1B. Like, I don't know. I mean, not 1B maybe, but he's been a solid backup for the Oilers this year. And if the Oilers go into the playoffs and something, knock on wood, something happened to Skinner, you've got, to Ryan's point, you've got Campbell, and then you've got Pickard in the back, right? Like, I think, that would be a 1-2 that a lot of teams are going to go into the playoffs with if Campbell can get back to form, right? And I think, if they might have already talked to him and said, look, like, for cap reasons and everything else, we're not bringing you up till till the end of the season, right? Like, you might be sitting there getting reps until playoffs start, and then we're going to bring you in. I can't see the Oilers keeping him in the AHL and going into the playoffs with Pickard as the backup. I think we'll see Campbell as the backup for sure. But I'm actually not the least bit surprised that the Oilers aren't actively looking for goaltending. I mean, it's just, where's it going to come from, for one? Who are you going to trade in order to do it?
Yeah.
And like, nobody, I mean, as much as all of us would love to believe it's going to happen, but nobody's going to take that Campbell contract, not until they see him play in the NHL. So you might as well take him into the playoffs with you. And to Ryan's point, he's been good in the playoffs, I think, right? Like, he
had a couple appearances last year, but he was good.
Yeah.
And I think that Dallas game was big for Pickard. Like, he's been kind of giving the easy games throughout most of his time up with Edmonton so far. As Bruce McCurdy kind of mentioned on my Twitter after the game on Saturday, that Pickard did play against Florida a couple times, and that's a very strong opponent. But Dallas is probably equally as good, and they were hotter coming in. So I think Dallas is the highest quality start that Pickard has had so far this year. And yeah, he wasn't perfect, but he won. He got the job done. Kept us in it when we needed him to keep us in it, and eventually he outlasted Ottinger. So I think it just shows that we are undervaluing what Pickard can bring to the table, and he can step up against a high quality opponent, and we're going to need him to down the stretch, because like the Oilers schedule is getting quite condensed over the last 65 or whatever it is days that are left. They're playing almost a game every other day, whereas the games are a lot more spread out in the early part of the season. So they could ride Skinner, and they needed to get back in the race. But now they're back in the race. They have the playoffs to think about, and they got to be able to play Pickard a bit more.
That leads.
And they will, but then factor this in. He's a 31-year-old goaltender in his 9th year in the league, and he has 0 NHL playoff game experience.
He's about to get some.
Yeah. Yeah. Get thrown into the fire.
Lotzi brings up a good question too. Is what do you do this week with 3 games? Coming up, you got Boston, Minnesota, and then Calgary on Saturday. To me, I don't know if I would give Pickard the Bruins game, but maybe that is the one. Maybe it's a bit of a throwaway game because you're against an Eastern Conference team and it's not a 4-point game. So to me, I would play him against the Wild. But what do you guys think?
The Wild had a hell of a game tonight.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
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 They're always pesky.
I actually would not be the least bit surprised if we see Pickard in net against Calgary.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to pick the Flames one.
Yeah.
Just a random question to all the rest of you fellas there. Do you worry about running Skinner into the ground? Because you get that feeling once again that he might be just need that little bit extra rest. I know I preached about it here on the last shows about load management and whatnot, but especially with Bearsy and Lotzi there, like what are your main concerns about Skinner going down the stretch?
These guys, to me, I mean, I'll let Lotzi go off mute when I'm done. But to me, I look at this and, I mean, we've got a condensed schedule, but there's not a lot of back-to-backs in here again, right? Like the Oilers have had a pretty good schedule in terms of like a game in between. These guys are athletes. Skinner's pretty young. I'm not overly worried about it. I mean, we saw Grant Fuhr play 72 games for the Blues when I'd say he wasn't even in the best shape of his life. Like, now it's a different league, granted, but I don't know. I'm not terribly worried about it if they continue to do what they're doing now, which is Pickard gets, they picks up some of the slack. Like him going in and getting the win against Dallas, it's huge, right? Like for me that's what the players want, the confidence to know they can go out there, play in front of a backup and still get the win, right? Like he just needs to keep them in. He doesn't need to get a shutout against the Stars. He just needs to keep them in the game, and I brought up Grant Fuhr. Like you got to have a Grant Fuhr like game. You just got to keep them in the game. And the Oilers and Subban seemingly right now, or one-man team like Connor McDavid, like it just seems to be willing his way, onto the score sheet night after night after night. So, you assume that Connor's going to get you 3, and then you hope the rest of the team gets you a couple more lately. And I don't think you need exceptional from Pickard. You just need good. And I think that'll give Skinner just the right amount of break that he needs. And if we do see Campbell come up, then they'll throw him in for at least a couple more, right? To give him the break. That's my thought. I'm just not worried about it. I was before, but Pickard's been good enough that I think they'll throw him in. Like if you look into March, we've got Columbus, Seattle, Buffalo, Anaheim, Montreal, Ottawa. Like there's a lot of games you can throw him in, right?
Lotsy, what do you figure?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a little bit more worried about that than what Michael is for two reasons. One is that, yeah, Skinner is a young kid, professional athlete, but like professional athletes take time. Like if you know their performance, there's a curve, right? The same thing with their physical abilities, right? It takes time to gain that strength to be able to put up with the grind of an 82 game NHL season and then playoffs, especially to be as a goaltender to be a workhorse that's starting 50 plus games and then doing playoffs as well. It takes time to build up that strength and that endurance. And I haven't seen evidence that Skinner has been able to do that yet. He kind of burnt out at the playoffs last year after getting rode hard down the stretch. And yeah, it took him a little bit of time to get into it this season too. So that's my worry, is that we do burn him out a little bit. So that, like, I don't need Pickard to start every other game, but you'd want to see him start more than 2 or 3 out of 10 kind of deal, right? Like you want to see him go on a run where he maybe starts 6, or where Skinner only starts 6 of 10. Maybe Pickard gets a few more starts than he might have gotten earlier in the season when the schedule was a little bit more spread out. The other reason I worry is not so much about this season. I look back to the 2017-2018 season, when it's the season after we rode Cam Talbot real hard. That, what did he play, 70 some odd games that season? And
72,
yeah, there were other factors too. Like I believe 17-18 it was the year that he had his twins, so I don't think he was getting a lot of sleep at home that year. And it was a contract year. He had Mikko Koskinen coming in. The team was just struggling as a whole itself, and Talbot also struggled himself. So I don't know if it was being worked as hard as he was the year before that made him struggle the year after, but that's not a risk I want to take again. So I mean, that's my worry with riding Skinner as hard as we have.
Yeah, I got to factor in though too, Lotsie, that like down the stretch, if we're guaranteed a playoff spot, like, you know, you can give Skinner all the rest he needs, right? Until that point, you got to ride the hot hand, right? Like if we can get to the last 3, 4, 5 games where we don't need to play Skinner every game, then hey, that's great. We can give him a rest going into the playoffs. What
There's a little bit
percentage
of
has he played so far?
Yeah, and I wish I had the numbers in front of me. I don't, but that's a gamble in itself as well, because you give the guy the week off before getting into the playoffs, so like give a guy a chance to mentally recharge. But it's like going for the All-Star break, right? Yeah, your body needs the rest, your mind needs the rest, but do you come back as sharp? Right, you get taken out of the rhythm right before you go into the playoffs, and then the spotlight turns bright, and things don't go well. Right, what happens then? Right, so like my point would be, Pickard has shown you that he can play against any opponent now. Like the Stars are an elite team. That's a hot team right now, number 1 scoring team in the league, and Pickard just showed he can beat them. It's like why can't you play Pickard more often down the stretch?
I agree with that. He's on pace for 57 games, by the way. Skinner, yes.
Which is an elite level workload. Like that, it's not Talbot in 16-17, but like that's a high level workload. It's like even if we can get that down to low 50s, right? Just a few more starts for Pickard sprinkled in there, I think would be tremendously helpful.
Bob, you're the goalie here. I mean,
I've been waiting for mine to get off mute. I'm actually leaning towards your side there, Hebert. I think I'm not too worried about load management. I'm not too worried about the physical exhaustion of it. I think if any exhaustion comes into play, it's the mental exhaustion more than anything. Physically, these guys are in the best shape of their lives, and not only that, but it's not realistic, but you want to play every game. Like it is almost painful to sit on the bench. I mean, you always make the comment of, yeah, it's nice to get a day off kind of thing, watch my buddy go out there and play. But seriously, like sitting on the bench is one of the most painful things to do. Like, as an athlete and your happy place is in the crease, it absolutely sucks to sit on the bench. You do your part and you try to take there's certain things that bring you joy, being on the bench, hanging out with the guys on the, you know, on the teammates that you don't get to talk to during the game, you know, trash talking. I did all my trash talking from the bench because I didn't have to back it up at all, right? So the game within the game that way, but there's nothing else you want more than to be in the crease. I think you're right, Lottie. Pickard has shown that he can play more. And for me, playing more is play him 1 every 4 games. Give him 25% of the starts from here on in. He's shown he can do that, and that's not a big thing to ask. I'm okay with Skinner playing 60 games. I think he can manage that. You have that rhythm, you have that confidence. You're talking about how Skinner might have shown some fatigue in the playoffs last season. I don't think it was physical fatigue. I think it was mental fatigue. He was getting pulled and he was getting rattled. You know, it's also his first time in the playoffs. There's a lot of pressure on that. And I just don't think his mental capacity could process everything at that moment. I'm fine with riding him while we can. He's hot, and get him that. I think he'll be fine. I think people read into that physical exhaustion thing. You always see guys on Twitter or even commentating going, "Oh, he looks tired out there." Wow, he looks tired doesn't mean he is tired. You can also look shaky and not be tired. You're just off that game, and physical fatigue has nothing to do with it.
Just touch on this comment from Janice McKay. Skinner has lost his touch, but will regain it. This is Skinner's first year being a full-time starter in the NHL. Campbell and Skinner shared the load last year. I don't think Skinner has lost his groove. I thought, you know, the third goal today was not a great goal, beating him across his body, but I think he's played pretty good hockey for a long time here. You know, you're going to give up a few goals that you'd like back. I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast, but I think he's still in a groove.
I think he's struggled since the All-Star break.
Yep.
I mean, he's still been decent, but I think he's dropped down a level ever since the All-Star break.
Yeah, and I'd also say our defense too, though, is dropped down.
Oh yeah,
so it's
Yeah.
Everybody has, but yeah.
Well, the MO on Skinner, like beating him, is high glove side. It just like when he goes down early in that butterfly position. Like, I don't know, Bob. Like, what do you think? Like, I found that he went down too early there today. Maybe it's just a mechanical thing or a timing thing. You know, anticipating too quick going down to the butterfly, but it just seems like when Skinner has an off game, like the first half of the game today, it just like he anticipates too quickly and he goes down and then guys just roof it on him.
That's not necessarily anticipation. That's just a confidence thing at that point. I think there's two. It's not just high glove side. I think it's high in general. When he stays back in his crease as he's prone to do sometimes, like Bukestad just abused that today. Like the first one high glove side, the second one high stick side. I couldn't help but wonder if maybe he picked something up just by practicing against them even last season for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing it, you know, Schwartzy work with these guys, like, oh, he hasn't played back, I guess. I do think Skinner was doing that a lot more beginning of the season, which contributed to his struggle as well as the team struggling in front of him too. For the most part, he's been playing at the top of his crease a lot more, and his side-to-side movement has been better for the most part. Now, I also agree with you, Lottie. I think he's been struggling a little bit here since I wouldn't say since the All-Star break, but definitely the last 4 games that he started haven't been his ideal games. But he still finds a way to come up with a big save when we needed to as well. Like today, for example, after Bukestad scored that high one off a fairly bad angle, and he was deep in the crease, Moser gets that chance from the slot, and Skinner telescopes out to the top of the crease to make that save. And that's a huge save at a crucial part of the game.
I think from the beginning of the season till now, the one thing I've noticed in Skinner is positionally he is so much better than he was at the beginning of the year. And that just makes him a better goalie all around. Like I think during our stretch, he benefited from having, you know, great defense as well. Like everybody was working together. And I'd say, you know, some of these challenges, like the going high on him, they never went away. It's just that those kind of chances, you know, weren't coming as often. And positionally, Skinner is so good that if he's got, like, I mean, I don't know where he fits in sort of the scheme of every goalie in the league, but he's good positionally. And so when you have good defense and a good positional goalie, the two of those things make you an excellent defensive team, right? And he doesn't need to be, the guy with the absolute like knockout glove hand, right? Or or anything like that. He's just there when you need him, right? And tonight, like the couple saves that you're talking about, Bob, like just positionally, he was just in the right spot, and I like that about him, right? Like you expect it to hit him in the breadbasket because he's going to be there. But it's impossible for a
And I
goalie to
guarantee
get like
you,
a side to side, get over and get. It's like that's hard.
because I think for the most part, once the team changed his game and Skinner changed his game, like he was playing at the top of his crease a bit more. He still falls back because I think he's taught that way to play near the goal line too much. But he has been more at the top of his crease during the streak and second half of the season so far. I guarantee you that those goals that Buce scored bothered him more than anybody else because he realized what he was doing. Because he definitely did, like that Moser one. There was another one from the point or later on too, where he came up the top of the crease and made sure that wasn't going to happen again.
We're going to take our first 3-minute break, I guess our only break that we take here, but and then we'll come back. I want to talk about Knobloch's coaching decisions that he made today and a little bit deeper look into next week, and then we'll kind of wind down the show talking about the Heavy Hockey Showdown coming up this weekend. We'll be back in 3. Thanks for being here for the first half of our show, 97 Octane Hockey. It's your passion that fuels our game. We will be back in 3 minutes to refuel after the fastest commercial on ice.
I'm Connor McDavid.
How would you describe your game?
I think just speed. I think that's the main thing. My game is all about speed. Speed with the puck. I think a lot of guys have a tendency to, when they get the puck, slow down and want to look for a play and all that. But I think if you could do all that, all with skating, it makes it pretty dangerous.
Edmonton Oilers would like to select with their first pick from the Erie Otters, Connor McDavid.
Under pressure, no more time. Can we make a move? I was thinking, you and I, what do we have to lose? 'Cause I'm wasting all my time thinking of the things we could do. If you gave me one more sign, I could find a way to break through, a way to break through.
He's still hard to follow. I don't know. Jenna said during the break, she says she loves the podcast. Guys, I really appreciate you guys continuing talking about the best team in NHL history, Oilers. I listen in when I can live, but also reply to it while I go on my long walks. Checks in the mail, Jenna.
Muchly appreciated, Jenna.
So today, I mean, it didn't look good heading into the third, but the blender was out and we made a few switches and boom, the game turned on a dime. How much credit goes to Chris Knobloch and how much credit goes to the guys? It was like the tale of two periods from the second to the third for sure.
Can I just make a quick comment there, like that last 2 minutes of the game there and how many shots they blocked there in their own end? Like I thought that was like Vinny Desharnais there today. Like I think he blocked at least a half a dozen, if not more. And one went off his arm there and he was grabbing his arm like that. That's not fun to do.
No.
I don't care how tough you are or if you're a keyboard warrior there in your mom's basement and I could take that. Yeah, okay. Let's see you step in front of a professional shot, like even a rush shot, man. It just stinks.
And it's different when you're up a pair, versus like trailing or a 1-goal game.
I took a beer league clapper off the heel last night, and I couldn't walk all last night. So that tells
there you go.
Yeah, that's not. And I've seen a professional slap shot whiz by my face playing against one guy one time. And it's definitely a different velocity. I'll just tell you that right now. Yeah. Very few people, unless if they've played at AHL or NHL level, have seen that level of shot. Yeah. You got bruises. I remember a guy, Ryan, you're a golfer, so you appreciate this. I had a friend of mine golfed once with Grant Fear back in the day, and he said, Grant was great, but he was changing his shirt, and I saw the bruises on him. He said it was crazy. He said he was completely bruised up. Like I can't even imagine.
Yep.
Like I know that they're wearing pads, but you can feel it.
Still sucks.
There's a reason that goalies are as crazy as they are.
That's right.
Especially back then.
Smartest guys on the ice. Smartest guys on the ice. You guys chase the puck around all the game. We just wait for it to come to us.
And get in the way of it.
Yeah.
Especially,
it's weird because obviously I never played NHL, but like even when I did play, like your body is just bruised all winter. Like you get them through the leg pads. It's ridiculous. Those leg pads look huge, but you get bruises through the leg pads. It's crazy.
Especially back in the day. I mean, you're basically wearing like a National Geographic magazine.
Well, those old.
Well, yeah, but with the nudie pics taken out, obviously.
That's right.
I was gonna say with the old school pads, like back in the day, like filled with deer hair, it still stung, man. It still stung. Like I remember I took a slap shot there from a guy that eventually made it to the NHL, and we were like 13 years old, and everybody's slap shot was mellow compared to his, and he wound up being a defenseman for the Vancouver Canucks, and just extra pepper. Like every time I was just like cringing. I'm like, okay, here we go, and just bang. It'd just be like, oh man, that sucks.
So back to Nobby. What did you guys think of the changes made and the way they came out in the third?
Well, my first thing is I really appreciate how Knobloch keeps these lines together for as long as he can to try, milk whatever you can out of him in a game. And like today, we saw basically the same lines for 40 minutes. Things were kind of struggling. He's like, maybe they'll find it here, maybe they'll find it here. And then the third period is like, okay, you know what? That was a done deal. We're getting nothing from this well, and he changes them up. I think he has a really good feel for what the players want when it comes to kind of line juggling and playing with whoever, and just to feel the game in that moment to make that change and just take the game over. I think obviously the players do the work, but geez, you got to give just maximum credit to Knobloch for what he does in that regard.
Do you guys really think that Ryan McLeod's his top 6 player, because when he joined with Draisaitl and Kane there today, like, holy smokes, just different.
I think you can get away with that with Draisaitl and Kane being as physical as they are. I mean, he's not the guy that's going to be banging and cranking people in the corners, but he definitely can skate with them, and he's a heady player, so I don't have much of an issue with it.
Saw Lotsie reaching for the mute button.
Just traded him.
He was muting me, probably.
No, there's been a couple times where Ryan McLeod to Leon Draisaitl's line has been the adjustment we needed. I think the first time Fogle was on the other wing, and that was wonderful for several games.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of one of the moves that started the streak, if I recall. But today it happened to be Evander Kane on the other side of that wing. McLeod with Draisaitl, and McLeod takes the shot. Kaner tips it in. The team goes on to win the game. So, no, I don't think Ryan McLeod is a top 6 winger, but he certainly plays one on TV quite well when called upon at times, and he does it well with Leon. He's got good chemistry with Leon for what it's worth. But it begs the question, like, if you're going to play Ryan McLeod as your top 6 left wing, what do you do at third line center? Like, Dylan Holloway is certainly worth an experiment there,
Yep.
but the offense hasn't come for the kid yet. I love the kid. I think he's got a lot of potential, but the numbers aren't there yet. We need numbers out of that bottom 6 group. So I just don't. I just think it's an awkward mix right now. I don't know. What do you guys think?
If you
Is
trade
McLeod a top 6 player on any other team?
Sorry, go ahead. What was that?
Is McLeod a top 6 player on any other team? It's just kind of the Oilers where it doesn't work.
I just think he's a good fit with Leon, but I think a lot of guys are a good fit with Leon.
Yeah, elite players bring everybody up, right? But I don't know. Like, I think it's a good experiment once in a while, and like as you said, they're Lotsy. Maybe ride it out for a couple of games, see if they rekindle that magic again, and tee off another winning streak. Who knows, right?
It does.
Like, I don't think it's a long-term fix. Like, I think if Ryan McLeod's your top 6 left wing, then there's an issue in your top 6.
Yeah,
right.
touché.
But the reality is nothing's happening in the bottom 6, which is why, like, if the team's not scoring, something's got to change somewhere, and the top 6 has to change along with it. And like, if the top 6 isn't scoring, then we know the team isn't scoring. Right, that's kind of the way it's been going all year. Last year was a bit of a reprieve from the same old narrative, but it's very much in full force again this year.
This is a good
Jander,
Like, if
I was just going to say that the Jander got a goal today, so good for him.
yeah, good on him. First one since November 28th.
Yeah, we're giving.
Great that he got one, but November 28th.
Yeah, I hear you.
Back in volleyball season, he got a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, this whole subject is a good segue into what do you dole out on Wednesday against the Bruins for lines? I mean, do you start what you finished with today, or are you back to the well tomorrow at skate if they have one?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been what the MO has been the last couple weeks here. Yeah, you start the game one way, you finish it another, then you start the next game the way you finished the last one, and then you change the lines again in the third period.
You got to feel, though, like Knobloch wants to get away from the Draisaitl McDavid thing. Like, didn't he say something similar to that effect? Like, it's good for a bit when you need some offense, but like He
talked about the challenges of having the 2 best players in the world on your roster, right? It's I can't remember everything he said, but he made a lot of good points. Like,
but he did,
like,
he didn't want
play them together on a line. You got
right, like, generally speaking, like, he wants to spread the offense, right? And
yeah, like, you can either split them up and have one of them on the ice at even strength for 40 minutes a night, or you can have them together at the same time in what we call a nuclear option for 20 minutes a night. But if that's going to be the way it is, you need at least one other line that's going to produce, right? And like, there's combinations of guys that can get it done, but they need to when 97 and 29 are together, and they don't always do that.
Can we talk about that one power play where they looked a lot like the Harlem Globetrotters there for a little while? For about a minute and a half, and they didn't score. They hit the post, obviously, but
Oh my God.
oh man, like
Even McDavid missing that wide open
Yeah.
cage there, and he banged his stick afterwards. I was like, oh man.
But I think the Coyotes would have had to been dizzy after that one power play. Like there was one point where McDavid and Nuge were playing pass in the corner around two guys, right? Like they're just it's like, oh, here it is. Nope, it's over there now. Like see you later.
Bouchard is getting so good
yeah.
at walking the line too and
Yeah.
evading people. Like, oh man, he's
Yep.
getting real fun to watch back there.
Yeah, he's got that little mohawk turn pivot kind of thing, that fake pass pivot that he's got while he's walking the line. Like
Yeah.
it's silky. It's nice.
Are you guys getting concerned about the PK?
Yeah.
I was concerned about the PK a while ago.
That's real, like leaning into the word getting concerned.
Yeah, what was once a strength is now a weakness again.
Do you think it's just a deviation from structure once again, and just people not, paying attention overall? The one thing that really has killed me here in the last couple of games, even going back to the Dallas game, the odd man rushes, man. Like it's just been crazy. Like just even today, they're like, there's one guy cherry picking there from Arizona sitting on our blue line, is just waiting for like easy pickings, and all of a sudden, bam, it's a 2-on-1. And it's been driving me nuts. And guys not subbing and covering for each other. Like it just, especially when you see like CC pinching in or joining the rush, have one of your forwards like hanging back just in case if there is something. I said that to my dad here this afternoon, and it just drove me nuts.
Some of CC's reads are questionable at best. I like the way that Kulak recovered for Desharnais today. That was incredible how he got back and shut down that play.
I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head there, Kirk. Like it's something that was a problem early in the season, and we settled it down after the coaching change. But just these last 3-4 games, those habits have been crawling back in. Like whenever we have pinched at the offensive blue line lately, puck's getting by us, and there's an odd man rush going the other way. Like I saw Bukestad had 2 goals today. One was off a bad pinch, one was off a bad change. Right, so it's just discipline at the offensive blue line and in the neutral zone, and we had the long change in the second period there. But it's just little details like that in the neutral zone that are killing us right now.
I'll say one highlight though is typically when we've had stretches like this of poor defense, there's a ton of Nurse could be better, but he's been one of the most consistent guys in the back end. And that's good to see, because he's the guy that, him and Ekholm, obviously. Ekholm's the guy that actually I think needs to step it up just a touch.
Yeah.
And not Nurse, which just seems so foreign to us, the last couple of years. But Nurse's game this year, to me, has been, if you had a most improved player, not that he, he's been a good defenseman. Like I think he doesn't deserve half of the stuff that is thrown against him, but I just think he's been that much better this year. I love his game, and even in this little stretch, he's still been one of the most solid defensemen, which just goes to show you that when he's not being overutilized, he's an all-star defenseman year over year.
He's really.
I agree with you. I think Ekholm is one of those guys that need to step up here, especially over this last 6 games or so like that. Him and Desharnais have had their moments of ouch kind of thing. But then they also have their moments of that's what we're looking for, but just not as many as those as the ouch ones in this last little stretch.
Let's shift now to talking about what's coming up this weekend. I'll put up the little graphic. So this weekend is the Heavy Hockey Showdown, and on Saturday we're doing a silent auction, raffles, pregame watch party for the Battle of Alberta, Oilers and Flames, and then on next Sunday, or I guess it's this Sunday now, I gotta start talking correctly, is the actual game. Robert Clark is going to be singing the national anthem, and Hunter the Lynx will be there. Still time to donate to your favorite player, and if you log on to heavyhockey.com, that will help. And we'll let Mr. Hebert talk about it a little bit, and then Lotsy can talk about it. And Bobby and Kirk, well, I guess everyone except for Kirk is playing, and then Kirk is going to do us the honor of busting tracks on the spitting tracks for us and all that. So
yeah, I'll talk about it for sure. Pretty exciting. I mean, we're not that far away. I mean, it's Monday now. I mean, Friday or Saturday, I'll be here before we know it for the pre-party, and then Sunday. This is going to be our longest ever Heavy Hockey Showdown. We've got 3 hours of ice time booked. So, there'll be some tired folks at the end of it all. There will be a break and a nice clearing midway through, which will be a nice, I'm sure, a welcome break for the guys. It's exciting. It's exciting what we've been able to accomplish. The guys here, the team, the Heavy Hockey Showdown team, everybody. I really think this year we're going to raise, just on the heavy hockey game itself, over $30,000. And last year, combined between Oilers Girls Night and Heavy Hockey Showdown, we did 25,000 combined. So just all from one event. That's fantastic. It'll make an unbelievable difference in somebody's life. Let's just put it that way. That on that graphic that Mike had up, $97 is the cost of 1 hour of counseling for somebody who's experienced sexual violence. I just keep thinking about that and thinking about what that means, and it's just overwhelming to know the difference that we can make. There's a lot of different charities out there to support. Sometimes it's hard to kind of get a really good feeling for where your money goes when you support different charities. When it comes to this, where it's going to go. That it's going to help somebody who's in need, somebody that's been affected by sexual violence. And I like to know that. And out of all the things, I mean, all of the violent crime that's out there in Canada, year over year, violent crime actually continues to decrease in Canada, except for sexual violence. It has not decreased. So this problem's not going away. Organizations like SACE and sexual assault centers from coast to coast need your help, and they're all underfunded because it is such a thing to deal with. And I just don't like when governments do budgets, they cut these types of organizations first.
Which is complete bullshit. I mean, it's essential. It's essential healthcare, and honestly, for some people, it can be the difference between life and death.
It is, and you look at everything else that there is in this world, and this is a life or death thing. The shame that comes with it, and just knowing that there's an organization out there to help with it. So anyway. All that, I get off my soapbox. It's meaningful. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to every one of the people here. We know that the hockey culture world could use some good publicity, right? 100%. We know that there's a great group of folks that are going to be out there and go play some hockey. We're going to just have a good time. I mean, you can, what better way to give back than, when you can have a good time doing it, right? Like, it's just like, it should be a no-brainer. And, it's to support. I think Lotsy is still third in donations raised. So he's doing a good job. Like if you can support, your favorite hockey player, go onto the heavyhockey.com website. Under the Heavy Hockey Showdown on the menu bar, you can link to the roster, and everybody that's set up a donation site, their link is through their name, and you can go that way to donate. And just know that you're making a difference. And last year, I think the money that we raised helped lower the wait times from 12 months to 6 months. That's that's huge. I don't, you can't say for sure, but I bet you that saved a life. That's all I'm going to say. That's that, and it's Saturday. Saturday is the pre-party. Starts at 4 p.m. at Soho. We're going to have a lot of fun. There's a Hyman signed stick. We always got a signed stick that we get from the Oilers. This one's Hyman, who's a half-decent goal scorer. I don't know if there'd be any notches on the stick from pucks he's deflected in the net or not, but there's that. There's some Draisaitl signed memorabilia. There's a couple NFL tickets. There's sets of hockey tickets. There's all sorts of hockey-related silent auction items. And then on Sunday, of course, at 11 a.m., come out and watch the game. It's going to be fast. Yeah, for the first 5 minutes, and then the rest of the time you can have fun with the people in the stands. There'll be lots of stuff happening in the stands. You might not even know there's a game going on. Hunter will be there. There'll be raffles and all sorts of other fun things. But it's going to be good.
Thoughts on it, Lotsie?
So yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on what Michael was saying there. And if you follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, like you'll know that I've been doing a lot of training for this event. Like I know it's going to be fast hockey. I want to survive those 5 minutes that it's going to be fast for. But it's not just about that for me. This is just one step along my journey towards self-improvement after a difficult year last year. And I mean, I started my training for this event on New Year's Eve, or even a little before that, but it's 7 weeks. We're going on 8 weeks. And yeah, it's been a mental grind trying to do something to train every possible day, aside from my Cali trip last weekend. But I know that the mental grind that I've gone through is absolutely nothing compared to what a victim of sexual assault has to go through. And they relive a trauma every single day of their lives for many years, if not the rest of their lives. And yeah, as Michael said, $97 donated to SACE equals one counseling appointment, which is fantastic to know that we've raised so much and made such a difference. But it takes years of counseling to even make a dent in a lot of cases. So as much as what we've done is huge and it's amazing, your continued support towards the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton is also hugely important in the lives of the people that need their services. So I got another donation today. I hope I've leapfrogged into second place now. I ain't catching Michelle. She's too far ahead, but I'm hoping to get into second place here. And we got another week until the showdown, not even. And I know my donation page is going to be open for another week after the event. So I'm going to keep pushing for donations here. If you follow my Twitter at LotsRyan, my latest post today has my video that goes into more details about what I just talked about here. And you got my link to my donation page on the bottom. But yeah, I hope to see a lot of people there on Sunday. Watch us old hacks try to get around the ice a little bit. And if you can make it out on Saturday to Soho for the pre-party and silent auction, then it'd be awesome to meet you guys there too.
The four of us will be on the same team this year, so that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, and the jerseys look hot. Like, they look awesome. So And,
Spangler Cup
yeah.
style, anyway.
Kirk, you better have "We Are the Champions" in the mix there, because we're going to be racing around the rink with the cup in hand. I did design the jerseys, and I used the Spangler Cup team as my inspiration for that. Of course, the Oilers colors, Spangler Cup. Yeah, they look very. That's the inspiration. So I'm glad that it's been noticed. And we're pretty close in terms of skill level. So,
any thoughts, Bobby? Are you excited?
Those gentlemen said it all, except for I do know somebody personally that has had to use the system through SACE. I did not know that from last year. Even that just I only learned this here probably the last couple months when I was talking to her about this, and then she shared, and she was okay with me sharing that I know somebody, as long as I just for anonymity, she doesn't want her name used. So this all of a sudden became a lot more personal to me, even though I thought Durst, what was the lady's name again that gave the speech last year, and then it's coming on our show in April.
Okay, so we're gonna have Lynn, Jen, Krista, and Mary Jane is gonna
Mary
come
Jane.
on. Yeah,
Mary Jane, and her speech last year and thanking us and how touched she was, really hit home, right? So, and now that I know somebody that use it, that's really tugged at me for how important this is. I disagree with you guys in regards to find the links and donate to your favorite hockey player. No, stop donating to your favorite hockey player. Donate to me by now. I'm running so far behind on this thing. All your favorite hockey players are well taken care of. Come to the bottom feeders now who really need the help.
As long as you acknowledge you're not the favorite, we're good with that.
The numbers are obvious. I know where I rank. So. But the other thing I learned now too is that the four of us are all on the same team, so that makes me realize I really got to work on my back muscles since I'm going to be carrying you guys this year. So,
there we go.
And Kirk, just make sure you have that Under Pressure song ready that we do for the Connor McDavid commercial. That's going to be my goal song, which you'll probably have to play about 4 or 5 times that night.
Fair enough, bud. Fair enough.
Goal song. We definitely should have goal songs. Oh yeah. Are you prepared, Kirk, for goal songs?
Hey, bring it on. As a DJ, you have to take requests, right? So I'm the request line is now open.
that might actually be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, maybe we'll just go Kirk, Bob, Michael, Lotsie, and then me on predictions for this week.
You know what? I'll just be happy if they pull away with wins, let alone predictions on scores. Like Boston's going to be a tough one. Minnesota Wild, they're always finicky. They're always pesky, especially Joel Erikssonek. He's like another Corey Perry, but more Selke type, I would say. And then of course the Battle of Alberta. It's always a good time. It would be my first live viewing of the Battle of Alberta. So, I just hope for 3 W's. I don't care how they do it. If it's like a 10-7 score, like it was there in that Vancouver, Minnesota game there today, I don't care. Just get a W. And 3 W's would be awesome.
Well, don't worry about your prediction. I have, as the new self-proclaimed oracle of Heavy Hockey Network, it's going to be a sweep. We're sweeping all these 3 games this week. I'll go so far as saying that the Boston one will go into overtime, but the Minnesota one will score probably 6 goals.
You're forgetting one game.
Well, Calgary's going to be Pickards, and I'm not giving you a score. I'm just saying I gave you the prediction of sweep. Like you guys are asking. Next thing, if I get all these right again, you'll be asking for lottery numbers, and that's too much pressure.
Do you gotta have any lottery numbers or no? No. Lotsie, you want to go, or you want me to go? All right. I think 2-1. But if I had to guess, I'd say they lose to Mini. beat Boston overtime. I figure that game definitely will go to overtime, and I just can't see them. The team loves to play Calgary, so I think they'll win. And plus, it's hockey night in Canada, so that whether people realize it or not, it means something to the players. So they'll come out and play then. And Minnesota, though, they've got something to play for right now. They had a great game tonight. I think I just don't think the Oilers are going to sweep. Not unless if they go back to form. So to me, they haven't quite found that form again. And until they do, they need to stay out of the box, though, because penalty kill's awful. That's me. They can't go 4-0, Lotsie, by the way.
I was pretty much going to do the same prediction as you there, Michael. I think we found a way to play our best games against the highest quality opponents recently, like that Vegas game after the All-Star break. That was a really well-played hockey game by both sides. In the Dallas game, same thing. I think that was a really well-played game by both sides. A couple breakdowns in the Dallas game, but I still found a way to beat them. So I think we can beat Boston. I was going to say overtime, but just to be different, I'll say regulation for that one. I don't know what it is about Minnesota and the Oilers. We just struggle against them. And we're, like you say, we're not in our A game right now. They just let up the Canucks for 10, so we know they're feeling it and they can score. So I think that's the game we lose. And Calgary, well, they're Calgary. Battle of Alberta at home on showdown weekend. Oilers are winning that one.
The guys care about showdown weekend. Let's just be clear about that.
Oh yeah, 100% they do.
Right? Like
They've heard of all of us, and they watch our shows religiously.
Connor called me and said, "I'm going to win one for you guys." So,
yeah.
I heard they were going to sit like in the top row to overwatch to see if we're playing. Right.
Yeah. No, they'll be there. I mean, they'll be in long coats with like fake mustaches, so people don't get all crazy and stuff. But
it was like in the glass behind the stands, kind of
right.
Looking over.
Yeah. At some point, they'll practice on that ice
with Bobby Stauffer.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we're going to run the table, and I think the Bruins. I'm going to say 6-3 us. They're that Eastern team that an 8:00 puck drop start is bedtime for them, usually on most nights. So I think we can catch them napping literally. And Minnesota, I'm going to say 6-4 and 4-2 against the Flames. We run the table. So I called scores. If I get any of them right, and you got calling it right, Bob, I win. So that's. I want to thank Michael and Ryan for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure, and an hour and 20 minutes went by like 5 minutes, but we've got more time to talk in person coming up this weekend. We'll release this to Spotify probably tonight because I still got some time before I got to go to night, and it's already Monday for Michael, so it's almost time for him to board a plane to come here. It's Tuesday for him. So he's in the future. He's going to be in the DeLorean and in Edmonton before we know it. If you're playing a beer league team in Edmonton, he's looking to get into some action. Another final tune-up before we got to play the game. I might play a beer league game with my son tomorrow. I've been on the ice a little bit the last few days, blasting some pucks and playing with some kids and feeling the black biscuit a little bit. So shaking some of the rust off, but I guarantee I'll get at least a point on the weekend.
3 hours, you better get at least a point.
yeah, in a glorified shinny game. Thanks everybody for watching, and keep your sticks on the ice. Keep reaching for the stars. We'll see you Monday. Maybe we'll do a show together in the city as part of the showdown too. Not sure, but catch Oilers live on Wednesday, I believe. We're doing a pregame or a postgame or
pre-game.
Pre-game.
Yeah, we'll be
Fi-
on before
5 o'clock?
Before Gazzola gets on for the pregame. So 5 o'clock Mountain.
And you can check out articles by Lotzi on heavyhockey.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll check you next time.
What about Bob the goalie's?
Oh, yeah. He's got an article that just,
right.
if
Is Skinner up there yet, Bob? Like, what the heck?
This was the team power rankings one. The
Oh,
goalie ones are
okay.
every
It
month,
wasn't
and then
goalie
the
rankings. Okay.
goalie rankings are every month, and the team ones are after every team plays at least a 10-game segment. So
It's blasphemy you don't have Skinner up there during the winning streak. Blasphemy.
When does Pickard crack that? You know, like,
Yeah.
oh man, we're starting a whole new episode already.
he won 6 in a row. We got to give that guy some love. Good night, everybody.